Here's what you need to know about the digestive system for GCSEs. When food enters your mouth, there's mechanical breakdown and chemical breakdown. The mechanical breakdown is provided by your teeth and your tongue, and the chemical breakdown is provided by the amylase that's in your saliva. Amylase breaks down starch into sugars, and this is why sometimes at school they might give you a piece of bread and tell you to suck on it until it becomes sweet. Next, the food goes down your food pipe, which is known as the esophagus, and by the motion of peristalsis, it ends up in your stomach. Now, in your stomach, the food gets churned about, and the great thing about the stomach is we have hydrochloric acid in there. The acid has two functions. Number one, it kills off any germs and bacteria that might have entered the stomach, and number two, it lowers the pH. And the reason why that's really useful is because we have an enzyme in our stomach called pepsin, and pepsin has an optimal performance at lower pHs. Pepsin breaks down proteins into amino acids. We call it a protease. Now, once the food leaves the stomach, it heads towards the small intestine, but on the way there, it picks up some bile. Bile is a substance that's made by your liver and it's stored in your gallbladder. So what bile actually does is it turns big blobs of fat into small blobs of fat, and that's known as emulsification. So we call it emulsification of fats. And the reason why that's really useful is because if you have a big blob of fat, there's not that much surface area on it for the enzymes to work on. But if you have small blobs of fat, there's a lot more surface area for the enzymes to work on. Now, don't forget the pancreas also releases three enzymes: carbohydrates, protease, and lipase. And when the food enters the small intestine, there's also those three enzymes there as well. So we've got lots of enzymes ready to break the food down into things that are easier to absorb into the bloodstream. So what are those things? Well, carbohydrates, usually amylase, break down starch into simple sugars. Protease breaks down protein into amino acids. And lipase breaks down lipids or fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Now, these products are much easier to absorb into the bloodstream, and obviously inside the small intestine we have lots of small villi, and they have microvilli on them, and that increases the surface area for absorption. So there's a lot of movement of substances into the bloodstream in the small intestine, and when the food leaves the small intestine, we would like to think that most of the nutrients have been absorbed into the bloodstream. Now, one thing that hasn't really been absorbed is water. So the next thing that happens is that food moves into the large intestine, and this is where all of the water is absorbed. And once all the water has been absorbed, we're left with this substance. It is then ejected through your anus as superheroes in training. If you found this video useful, then make sure to save it so that you can use it as part of your revision for the actual exams.